This is Dominique Perez, and this is my Week 8 informational text instructional lesson plan. The date is August 19th, 2019, and I chose about 3rd grade for this lesson plan. I don't have any of the posters that the lesson plan was specifically talking about, but obviously if I were in a real classroom, I would have those so that I could help model to the students, but I'll just pretend that I have it. Alright. Hey guys, gather around me. You guys can pick a seat on the floor or a seat in one of our flexible seating chairs, anywhere you choose. And today we are going to be talking about working on a collaborative strategic reading. And so we have never practiced this, but we have practiced bits and pieces of it. So you guys will be familiar with some of it. And some of it will be a new learning process, so that's super exciting. We are going to be working together, and it's going to help us plan for our understanding and remembering what we read. So this process I'm about to teach you will really help you focus on what you learned from the text and how you can remember it a little better. So our CSR chart has 4 main categories, as you can see over here, and it has preview, which is right here. It has click and clunk, which is right there, get the gist, and then wrap up. So preview, this first one right here, this is used before we even start our reading, okay? You guys will just be reviewing it. You'll be looking at some certain aspects of the text, and you'll be brainstorming and making some predictions. We're going to talk about it a little more. And then wrap up, the bottom one, this is used after our reading is completely done. We've already read the text. We've focused on these different strategies. We've gotten to really know what the text is trying to tell us and what we're trying to learn. And then the click and clunk and the get the gist, the 2 middle pieces, those will happen more than once during the reading. So you might have a paragraph where it just clicks, so you don't really have to do much with it, you just get it. But then you might have one where you struggle a little bit, and I'm going to model what to do in that situation, okay? So that you guys know what to do. So I'm going to hand you your guys' copies, and we're going to be reading Pioneers on the Oregon Trail. And so here are your copies. Can you take one and then pass it around to all your friends? So the pieces I'm going to be working on today are the first 2 sections of the reading, and I'll help you understand these different strategies, and I'll model them for you. So one thing that good readers always do is they always preview a text before they actually read it. And a lot of you, I think, are already doing this. You just might not realize it. So this is when you get the chance to get your thoughts about what you'll be reading about. You might get to make a prediction about what the text is about, or you might be able to just get a general idea of what you're going to be learning. So we're going to talk about it a little deeper, and previewing has 3 steps. So the first step is scanning the text. So a lot of you, I already know you guys do this. You're super awesome at it. So you can look at the different illustrations, you can look at maps, you can look at headings, you can look at bold text, you can look at anything in this text that will help give you a hint of what it's going to be about, okay? So my preview, I will be starting by scanning the first page. So if you guys could all look at the first page with me, I'm going to look at that right now. And I see a title. So obviously it's Pioneers on the Oregon Trail. So I know that we're going to be focused on pioneers. We're going to be talking about the Oregon Trail that they went on. And I'm guessing we're going to talk about maybe how they traveled or what they did when they traveled. So there are 2 boldface headings that I'm going to focus on. And these will tell me a little more about the story. So look with me right here. I can see these 2 headings, and then I also see this picture right here, and this picture is a covered wagon. And I can form a few ideas about those, but we'll talk about those in a bit. And then I can also see a timeline right down at the bottom of your page. Do you all see that? Yeah, so that timeline kind of gives me a hint that we're going to be talking about maybe when they traveled or how long it took them to travel. So using what I saw during my scan of the text, I'm going to brainstorm what I already know and kind of what I just saw a little bit about the topic. So I know that pioneers traveled in those covered wagons. I've heard about that. I think I've seen pictures of it before, maybe in a magazine. You might have seen it somewhere as well. And so I'm going to write that down in my prediction box. And you guys will get a chance to practice it too. I also know that pioneers travel from the east to the west. I think I've learned that in a different class or maybe even a different text that I've read before. So now, after I think about what I already know, I'm going to predict what I will learn. So these predictions should be based on the different clues I saw in the text and what I already know a little bit. So it's the text and me at the same time, okay? So based on the first heading, I predict I'll learn about the pioneers' journey west to Oregon in these wagons. So I can tell that right from the heading that we're going to be learning about the way to the west. And so I can make that prediction right away, and I can see if I'm right later on. And then based on the second heading, I'm going to predict that I'll learn how and what they packed for the journey. So I might write that down, and later on I can go back to check if my prediction was correct. So during the reading, good readers are always monitoring their own understanding. So one thing you should do is you should notice what you totally understand. So you might say, hey, I've read about this before, I get this. And that's awesome, that's perfectly okay. But there also might be times where you read something and you're like, what did I just read? And that happens to all of us, that still happens to me. And so that's an important thing to know when you're reading. You want to be monitoring your own comprehension, okay? So we are going to use a strategy that will help us resolve a little bit of confusion that we might have when we're reading a text. So this is the click and clunk part of it. And this will be focused on words or concepts. So if there's a word or concept that you totally get, you totally understand, that would be like a click. Click. It just makes sense to you, right? And we've all had those things where we've just been like, wow, this really makes sense. And that's awesome. But we also all have those words or concepts that don't quite make sense, right? And so those are going to be our clunks, okay? And when you hit a word meaning clunk, you can use the vocabulary strategy that we've been working on. So I'm going to review that a little bit to help you guys figure out how to use it in the CSR strategy, okay? And it'll help you figure out the meaning of an unknown word, and you can use context and different word parts to figure this out. So I'm going to say right here in the text, and you guys can all follow along, there comes a word in the first paragraph that I'm not 100% sure what it means. I'm kind of unsure of the word. And so step one of our vocabulary strategy that we have been working on for a while is to look for context clues. So I'm going to read the words and sentences surrounding the word territory, because that's the word I don't understand. Territory, I don't really think I know what it means. So I'm going to look around, and in the fifth sentence right here, you guys count down to the fifth sentence, I see that it talks about miles and miles of beautiful land. So that gives me the idea that maybe territory is linked somehow with land. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that thought. And then step two, it says to try to break the words into parts. But I can't really find any meaning from that. I don't think that quite makes sense for this word, but it might for a different word. So instead, I'm just going to move straight to step three. And step three is to use the context clues to guess the meaning of the word. So I already looked at that sentence, and it talked about miles and miles of land. And a lot of this is revolving around the different land and that area that they had. So I think that territory is just a big area of land. And step 4 says that I need to try out my meaning and see if it makes sense. Do you guys want to try that out? Yes, it makes sense. That's what I agreed with too. So seeing if it makes sense is really important, because then we might have to, if it doesn't make sense, we might have to go back to step 1 possibly. And so another thing good readers always do is they identify the most important ideas in what they read. And we've talked about this a lot this week, okay? We've talked about this the whole school year, but we've really been focused on it. And so we've been talking about our paragraph shrinking, and that's part of CSR, and that's where we are going to get the gist right here. It's the third one. So first you will just want to identify what the paragraph or what the passage is talking about, who it's talking about, and you will want to shrink that information into a main idea sentence. And how many words or less? Yes, 10 words or less. You guys got that down. I knew you would have it. So you will repeat the clink and clunk and get the gist process a bunch of times during the different reading. So if our reading has maybe 10 paragraphs, you guys might repeat those all 10 times, or you might just repeat them 3 or 4 times. It depends on your understanding and your comprehension of the text. And so the last thing that we will need to do is we need to wrap up after we finish reading. And in order to wrap up, we'll be asking and answering different questions about the text. And so for guided practice, you are going to be using the CSR chart for the next 2 sections of the text. And I will come around to help you guys with this, kind of make sure you've got the right ideas and that you're working together cooperatively. I'm going to have you go with your parent share partners, so hurry up and get with those partners and you guys can start working, and I will come around. Alright, so I see that you guys have previewed what this text is about. You said that it's going to be about the pioneers and how they travel specifically. Yeah, so that's a good idea. You guys got that from the different headings, and that's what we talked about. So now you guys are going to read it, and you're going to do the click or clunk, and you're going to do the get the gist, okay? And then you might want to wrap up the text afterwards just to make sure that you guys have the same idea, alright? Yeah, so I see you guys look a little lost. You haven't started. Is there anything I can help you with? Yes, you guys are confused about the previewing. So a really simple way is to remember that this is before our reading. So we just want to scan those different headings. So scan those next 2 sections that I didn't work on, okay? You guys are going to work on those, and you're going to brainstorm what you already know and then what you will learn. And I'll come back to you after a little bit. I would give them more time, obviously, right here to work together as a group on their 2 sections, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to wrap that group work up and we're going to move on a little bit. So 3, 2, 1. Thank you, friends. You guys all worked together awesome. I was coming around and I was hearing a bunch of great ideas. You guys were all using the CSR strategy so well, and that's so awesome that it's the first time we've worked on this. So now that we've finished this as a group, I have different learning groups for you. Instead of doing partners, we're going to get into these learning groups, okay? And we're going to work on this text, and we're really going to try to get a deep understanding of what this text is talking about, okay? And we will have different student roles for each person in the group. So I'm going to come around and talk to you after I put you in your group, and I'll explain those different roles to you, okay? And these roles will be really beneficial to you when you're in your group work. You all will have an awesome part in the CSR strategy. So my first group is Kara, Jace, Nathan, Jared, Brady, and Evie. So I need you guys to get together. And then my second group is Jose, Rachel, Jamie, Manuel, and Leo. So you guys will go ahead and form, and that corner right over there works perfectly. And then my third group is Abigail, Rebecca, Alberto, Maximilian, and Rodolfo. So you guys will go over in that corner. Thank you so much for getting your stuff already. My fourth group is Sam, Ricky, Amelia, Anastasia, and Belle, and you guys are going to be in this corner of the room. I will come around and explain those different roles to you, and you guys will work on using our CSR strategy a little more, okay? You guys did so awesome listening to me today, and I'm so excited to see how well we can start understanding our text.